So, folks, it's time again for the next guest here we have at the Swedish Pavilion at Expo 2020 during this Magic Food Week, where we're talking to our friends from all around the world on how to build a next generation sustainable food system. And my name is Johan Jörgensen. I'm one of the founders of Sweden Food Tech, and we are one of the connectors of the entrepreneurs doing well, what entrepreneurs do, which is magic stuff. And with us today, here are the founders of Idun. And they're straight from their wonderful factory in the north of Sweden. Hi there.
Yes.
Hey, Lars.
Hi. Hello, Johan.
Hi.
Hello, Dubai.
Hello, Dubai. Exactly. Hello, Dubai. Tell us, who is Dubai meeting right now? Who are you?
Yes, I am Lee Homburg.
Yes, I'm Lars Normark. I'm the winemaker of Idun.
And I'm the GM of the Idun Nordsjö wine that makes fine, elegant wines of wild blueberries from the Nordic forest.
This is so interesting because, Lars and Lee, I don't know, but if you see, but the whole entire Swedish pavilion is constructed as a forest.
Yeah.
And what grows in the forest?
In Sweden there are lots of wild berries grows under the trees in the forest, and they are not picked actually. They are only 3% are picked, the wild blueberries and wild lingonberries.
Yes, absolutely. And they're totally free to pick as well.
So tell me, okay, first of all, this has been a discussion since I was a kid. Why don't we pick all the berries in the forest? Only the bears pick the berries in the forest, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, I think it's something like 70% of Sweden is covered in blueberry bushes. It's something like that. It's ridiculous. And there are a lot of blueberries out there. And then I encountered you a while ago. And what did you make out of those blueberries?
We make wine.
Yes.
Yes, we make wine, and it's like a Pinot Noir wine, but better.
Yeah, it's comparable to a Pinot or a Beaujolais, we say.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes it's really hard for me to have these types of calls because what you want people to, the sensation you want to give people is taste of it. But I can
Yeah.
assure you, the first time you drink this wine, blueberry wine, and like we usually drink it as a cooler or something like that, but blueberry wine, and it tastes like wine, real
Yeah.
wine from France, you know, some
Yes.
place like that. It's ridiculous. And how come you were able to make wine out of blueberries? Did you do anything special?
Yes, we did, because this we think we aim. Our goal was to make a wonderful, high quality wine of blueberries. So it's never been done before in the Nordic country to apply the oenology principles like you do with the grapes to make wine. So that's why we had the competence from Canada and a guru within winemaking who has long experience of making wine of both grapes and berries and other fruits. So we usually say that apart from the wonderful properties of the white blueberries we have in north of Sweden, another secret is actually competence in winemaking, because it's very complex to make good wine.
That's true. You usually say it takes 3 generations to make a good wine, but you're able to do that in basically no time at all. I think this is interesting from so many levels. I mean, one of them is, of course, the fact that you're producing something that is as good as any French wine, but you're doing it from blueberries. I think that's super important. The second one is, of course, that there are so many unused blueberries out in the forest. And when you talk to winemakers in France and Spain, and they constantly complain about the lack of grapes or grapes from their specific farm. But how large is your farm or your vineyard, so to say?
It's pretty big, Johan. It's I think it's 20 million acres.
27 million acres.
27 million acres. Yeah, I get that question a lot when we visit vineyards in Spain or Italy. How many acres do you got? It's a bit tricky question, I must say. We have a lot of acres.
And you don't need to grow them. That's the wonderful thing, because we are an outsider from the wine industry. That's why we think that these white berries growing in the forest are absolutely the best ingredients for humans, healthy and no any pollution, and also that it's healthy for planet. So that's our driving force, health and sustainability, with the kind of new thinking and innovative way of working with the winemaking.
I think it's super interesting because we had earlier today, we had a wonderful scientist from Japan here talking about the necessity of biodiversity, that we grow things together in a natural ecosystem in order to provide all the nutrients that you can have and also all the taste profiles. And here you have, as you say, the wild blueberries, you know, living in the forest forever and ever, you know, growing the roots down, you know, sucking up all the minerals from the soil and from the ground, and then converting that into blueberries that you then pick and just use because they're free for you. It's well, it costs to pick them, of course, but they're essentially free. And then you use a traditional technique in order to do that. But then you do something else I find extraordinary. You can freeze these blueberries first,
right,
and then you can make wine out of it.
Yeah, it's actually better because everybody do know when you pick any fruit and berries or any vegetations, once you freeze, you actually keep the vitamins. And we've been trying to do that with fresh berries, but the results actually better with frozen berries. And that's completely blow away because then we can produce wine all year round because we have frozen berries and then we can start fermentations each month.
We just take it out from the fridge and start the fermentation. all year round.
So our small winery, it's an artisanal, and they are used all year round. That is different to winery to the grapes. They only have one season, and we are so happy because then we are able to use resources that already are, just like the resources of wild berries. They already are in the forest. You don't need to grow them. So, so we are really happy about that.
It's truly magic. And I mean, also you don't suffer then from the problems that they sometimes have, especially now with climate wreaking havoc on all the fields out there with a bad harvest, because your harvest is in the freezer. You can just use as much as you want, and then possibly also, I guess, make as much wine as you want. So what's your aims when it comes to producing wine?
Yeah, I think when we started, we had the first vision was that we have to make wine that is as good as wine from Bordeaux or Bourgogne. And now the wine experts in Sweden, they compare our wines as good as wine. They actually have in the menu, they have our wines instead of wine, fine wine from Bordeaux. So that was our first goal. Yeah. And now we have a second goal that the wine should supply to the Nobel banquet, hopefully this year. And in a longer term, that we want to make at least 1 million bottle of wine in a couple of years, because then we only use 1% of all the berries are picked today. So it's nothing.
So 1 million bottles is 1%. That means that you could have 100 million bottles of blueberry wine coming from the Swedish forests.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
that's
only
true.
in Sweden.
Yeah. And then it's only picked 3% of the berries as well.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of berries in the forest.
Endless, I would say.
Yeah.
Endless. Oh, an endless supply of wine. Oh Lord, oh Lord. That is okay. So wonderful. And I think I noticed some bottles behind you. Was that so when I saw behind? So can you show us what you have in your assortment right now?
Yes. So you can tell.
Yes.
Lars.
Yeah. This is a bottle of Roland Classic. It's called, and it's made of just blueberry. It's in the tank. It's about 350 grams a bottle of blueberry in this bottle.
Yeah.
It's a dry wine, 12.5 in alcohol.
And then we have two more dry wine. One is like a little bit, you ferment it with 20% more blueberries. Yeah,
we bring it to a lot more body as well. It's a little bit more complex.
Yeah, and then we have oak. And it's a very dry wine. This one, it's only 1 gram per liter residual sugar. So it's pairing wonderful to all kind of food, especially meat, I would say, for this one. And then we make another dry wine that is rosé of lingonberries. And this is as well, yeah.
And we have a lot of lingonberries in the forests too, right?
Oh yeah, they are even more than blueberries. So we can make lots of rosé wine. And this wine goes super great to a lot of food, especially Asian.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah,
fish,
seafood, and vegetarian.
Yeah, and to Asian cuisine, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So we make 6 different wine, and then there's another 2. Goes really well with cheese, and a cheese plate with French cheese.
Yeah.
Or like Italian or Swedish.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we have Swedish cheese. They are wonderful.
And then we have an aperitif. It's made of blueberry and raspberry. It's a little bit sweetened, and it's a very nice, delicate. After the dinner.
The Queen's wine, because in Sweden you have something, the Queen's jam. So we made the Queen's wine as well. And for those who don't drink alcohol, you can drink purely blueberry to your food. And it levels up your meal. So that's our goal, to level up the meal, and it's pairing so well to many kinds of dishes.
Yeah.
We actually have winemaker's dinner. That's historical, and it's really a paradigm shift, because never before you can have winemaker's dinner with 4 or 5 gastronomic dishes, usually pairing with wine from grapes. But now in Sweden, they are pairing with wine made of berries, and they love it, the restaurants. And one of the best sommelier works for Gastrologique restaurant, which is a 2 Michelin star restaurant. She has our wine in the menu, and many top restaurants in Sweden already.
Yeah,
This is
we're
super
aiming for a game changer.
You are a game changer, truly, and I think it's interesting to see how you have nailed it in the Swedish gastronomy scene, and I think there will be follow-ups in the international scene as well, because what we see here is an enormous interest for everything that comes from the Swedish forest, and now we can also have wine from there too. Thank you so much, Lars and Lee, for coming here and sharing with us. I wish you the best of luck with your bold endeavor to challenge the wine market from the far north of Sweden. Hope to see you soon again, and have a great day.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
and
bye.
have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Direkt eller? Direkt. And now we move on in our little wine section here. We just heard from the lovely winemakers of Eden Wine. And now we're heading over to the Empress of Wine herself, Cecilia Olne. And you're live from, I think it is Tulum, Mexico right now. When I watch the background, it surely looks wonderful where you are, Cecilia. But it's Tulum, Mexico.
I'm here in Mexico. And it's good to be in Dubai at the Bird Expo.
No, Dubai is lovely. You're in Dubai too, because you're currently being featured on the main screen in the Swedish pavilion, which is the co-creation stage. I think the screen is roughly 5 times 10 meters. So you're really visible right now. What a beautiful necklace you have, by the way. So that is, people are taking notes right now, and I think they will order them in gold here and you know, dress them up. So you know, the question is, why did I invite a Swedish woman currently sitting in Mexico to talk about wine? Well, I guess the reason is because you spend most of your time in India, and that of course complicates the picture even more. But Cecilia, can you tell us a bit more about your story and where you're from?
Of course. Well, I'm from Sweden originally. I'm from Karlstad, but I moved to India 15 years ago to spark the Indian wine revolution. And so being in Sweden, working with wines, I was looking at other places where I could make a difference and where I could grow an industry. And India was, and still is, quite an ancient wine industry. And I saw a lot of opportunities, and I headed there to build together with Rajiv Samant, a wine company, Sula Vineyards, which today is the largest wine company in Asia and also the most visited winery in the world.
I think it's a lovely story, because you came to India from Sweden in order to kickstart something that didn't exist in India, one of the world's largest markets, if not the largest market. And you do it, I'm sorry about that. And you do it in a sector steeped in tradition. Can you tell us a bit more of what were your experiences when you actually changed the, I shouldn't say the food system, but at least the drink system in India?
Well, there have been quite a few experiences, but one thing that that we really worked around was not to kind of create a product, but to create a lifestyle around the brand. So we connected with the youth, which you might know India has the largest millennium population in the world, and 50% are under 25 years old. So, well, the experience, of course, when I first came was that people did not know so much about wine. So being a first sommelier in India, I put a lot of efforts into education, to educating the consumer, traveling around India, teaching them what wine is. They didn't know even what grapes were. I mean, they didn't know that wines were made out of grapes. So that was, of course, a challenge. Then there was a lot of also challenges in terms of getting people to come to the vineyard to understand where we were. So we created a lot of activities. One thing that we're very strong in is wine tourism. So we invited people to come to the winery to experience wines, to get a first-hand opportunity to taste wines. And a lot of people also tasted wines for the first time and still are at the vineyards. And when they have a good experience, which they usually do, they become brand ambassadors for life. The music festival that we also created, Suda Fest, was also to connect and to create kind of an opportunity to connect with other like-minded people and to be part of a movement. So we have Suda Fest, which is one of the most visited music festivals in India, 15,000 people over 2 days. When it comes to the wine tourism, we now have 3 hotels that people come and stay, they drink, they do wine tastings. And it's actually the largest now, the most visited tourist destination in Maharashtra, which is non-religious. When people are listening, when it comes to Nasik, which is the wine capital of India, where again, we were the first, and now about 40 out of the country's 60 wineries are. It's about 3 hours drive from Mumbai, 180 kilometers. You can take a flight from Dubai, 3.5 hours, land in Mumbai and drive up, and you're in the vineyards of India. So yeah, there were a lot of challenges, but education was one of them, of course. But I think that's also a great opportunity when you look at the market and if people don't necessarily know about the product or what it is that you're going to create. And if you're a first mover, then you have an opportunity to also really form the consumer and tell them what to do and what not to do.
I think it's amazing. And also, I think this is kind of an important shift too, because without the current climate changes that we see, I mean, or with the current climate changes that we see, we also see that a lot of the traditional wine industry in Europe and elsewhere is threatened. So actually, what we're doing right now is looking towards other parts of the world to come up with the new taste sensations in the world of wine. So probably, I mean, like I usually call you the Empress of Wine, because I guess that's what you will become once Bordeaux has burnt to the ground, thanks to climate change. And of course, we will take all our wine from India in the future. But you're not only doing that. I'd also like you to touch a bit upon the other aspect of your life with wine as an investment, as an asset class. And I think that's a really important thing, an important message to a place such as Dubai. Even though perhaps you don't trade so much or drink so much alcohol here, we can also see wine in a new way as a pure investment.
Yeah, absolutely. So with this whole change in the world, when it comes to climate changes, when it comes to the change in consumers, I mean, one thing, of course, is what we created in India is also an appetite for wines. So when it comes to, say, for example, Chateau Margaux, Lafite, Latour, Sassicaia, Opus One, and these, top wines of the world, they don't necessarily have an increased supply, but they do have an increased demand now. And a lot of that is coming also from India. We used to see our end consumers of these wines coming a lot from China, but they also come from India now. So what I work with as well, the wine investments, where we actually build portfolios of fine wines and we work as stockbrokers, trade with wines. Yes, this whole algorithm with this decreased supply, increased demand is of course then resulting in the price of these wines are increasing in value, and it makes for a very secure and good investment. So it's an interesting thing to look at if one is looking at investments, wine for sure, and these fine wines, which is very different from, of course, the Indian wines, but the result of Indians now also drinking and consuming more of these fine wines. And it has been a lot of also changes during the pandemic, because now people are actually spending more on wines. They're consuming more wines at home, and they're spending more on the wines that they consume at home. And that also we have seen as a trend when it comes to the increase of consumption and then, of course, increase of the value of these wines. So I'm Forest, the company I work with in London, and yeah, we work with wine investments, and we make rich people richer.
Yes. No. And then they, of course, they don't ever drink the wines. They just keep them as investment objects. Well, eventually, I guess they get drunk by people such as myself, who care more for the enjoyment of wine than for the financial asset. But I think this is also a testament to what you can do with entrepreneurship, coming from a place such as Sweden, where we don't have any vineyards in Sweden, and we don't usually invest in wine, but you've proven that you can go out there in the world and with I'd say, let's call it some sort of a Swedish ingenuity or out of the box thinking, not only build an amazing new industry in the world's most populous country, but also that you can turn wine into something else than what's a bottle, and i.e. you can save it for later as a piggy bank. That's kind of amazing. Are you starting up the Mexican wine wonder now, being in Tulum, or is it just for enjoyment?
No, but I actually visited some vineyards when I've been here, and I can recommend it. Actually, back in 2003, I was importing wines from Mexico to Sweden, but I was a little bit early. I was working with a winery, Cheto. But I did take the opportunity to go and see them, and they're producing some pretty good wines. They have Nebbiolo, Petit Syrah in particular that I'm quite impressed by. So if anyone gets a chance to taste Mexican wine, I probably would recommend Cheto. But there's a lot of things happening in Mexico in terms of the drink industry. I'm also quite impressed by the mezcal that they have here. They have some interesting drinks made out of mezcal, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the future.
That's lovely. Cecilia, you are such a wonderful ambassador for Sweden and for wine everywhere. It's been a true enjoyment to have you here on the stage at the Swedish Pavilion in Dubai at the Expo 2020 in order to talk about the next gen food system and all the things that currently are changing. I wish you a wonderful stay in Mexico. I hope to see you soon on a stage near us, in India, in Sweden, or wherever else you might be. Thank you again, Cecilia.
Seeing you soon as well. I'm going to be in Dubai by the end of the month, so whoever is still around, I'm looking forward to meeting you then. And otherwise, come and visit me in India. Happy to have you there.
Okay, then all of you who wants to invest in wine, Cecilia will be in Dubai. Make sure that you make a connection. Thank you so much again, Cecilia.
Thank you, Johan. Speak to you soon again. Namaste.
Soon. Take care. Namaste. So now we have a pause or a short break for 5 minutes before we head back again here at the Swedish Pavilion with our stage program broadcasted live to the world from Dubai. So, folks, good to see you back again here at the main stage of the Swedish Pavilion, at the core of the Food Week here at Expo 2020 in Dubai. My name is Johan Jorgensen. I'm here together with our friends from Sweden Food Tech in order to discuss the next-gen food system. Now, we had an amazing afternoon so far with tastings of, I don't know, activated water, Swedish smorgasbords. We've had discussions with recently now what I call the Empress of Wine, Cecilia Oldne, and now I have another great friend here. Oh, here he is on a screen near me. Ollie, good to see you. And just for your information, you're on a screen about the size of 5 times 10 meters. So you're clearly visible to the audience here. And you hear me as well. Do we hear you, Ollie? Say something.
Hello, Johan. How are you?
Oh, yes, we hear you too. That's very good to hear. Okay, very good then. So this is all going to be a really interesting conversation. Well, let's see where it heads. So the other day I was on stage on something called the Gulf Food, which is one of the largest food gatherings of all the food trade fairs. And right before our panel that I led, there was a discussion regarding food in the metaverse. And the guy heading that panel, he came up to me beforehand and said, yeah, I know, but the title is just a crowd pleaser. It's all about the blockchain. Which brings me naturally to you, Ollie. So tell me, or tell the world rather, who are you?
Yeah, well, hi, Johan. I just want to explain my where I am at the moment, actually. I see you're in a very fine place there in Dubai. I'm actually in one of Stockholm's finest little wine cellars. So there's a little bit of that. I thought I'd bring a little bit of atmosphere to the interview today, and a nice selection of wine behind me from all over the world. So you've got wines from the USA, Australia, New Zealand, France, Spain. But that's where I am. Who am I? Well, my name's Oliver Oram, and I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Chainvine. And many years ago, I was reading a very interesting story about a chap called Rudy Canavan. Perhaps some of you may know him from a documentary and a great TV show called Sour Grapes, which is on Netflix. Rudy was perhaps the biggest wine fraudster in the world. For 10 years, he sold fake wine. They called him making between 30 and 50 million, but some people believe the fraud could have gone to perhaps even $100 million. And in my mind, the problem was that Rudy was extremely good at making people believe, and he made them believe because he was an extremely good artist. So he could duplicate paper extremely well. Now, for many people, we don't really know paper so well. We take money, we exchange it in banks sometimes in the old days, and that was an easy thing to do. And this is, I believe, what the problem is in the physical food and drink sector. So the idea of Chainvine was to actually bring a digital discipline to the physical world. And we've been doing this now for about 5 years, Johan, as you know, and we keep going from strength to strength. And as we go through the questions, you'll see more that actually the technology, although I started it in the world of fine wine, that is now applicable to a bottle that will cost you €7 that would cost you €700. And the metaverse is a lot to do with that as well.
Because as you say, Oliver, we're not here to talk explicitly about wines, even though they're a great use case, but more about the problems of the food system today, which is the almost total lack of data and transparency across the value chains. So basically what we have on our plates or in our glass, we don't know where they're coming from or where they've been or what they've been exposed to. But, you know, lessons learned from the world of wine can easily be brought to other goods in the food sector as well. So tell me a bit more about what happens when we start applying technology and the blockchain to wine.
That's great. I mean, what I did is I actually bought one of our new one of our IoT partners from Switzerland on, and they're called Rebus. That's actually their new device. that would actually go into a case or container or food or wine, if you like. And basically that gadget will tell me the health, wealth and happiness of your food or drink that's been traveling. And it does it really by monitoring internal, external temperatures and relative humidity. But how do you, the consumer, get to that information? Well, that's where Chainvine comes in. And we've developed the other part, which is connecting these devices to your digital display pocket now or in front of you on your door. And the reason why we use distributed ledger blockchain technology is because you're working in a very large supply chain. Many different people will touch your food or help your food get on its journey to you, or indeed your drinks. And what we're saying to them all is actually, you actually share a lot of data at the moment. You just don't share it or you don't share it or allow it to be accessible in a very democratic way. You're costing yourselves money. So for example, you know some of the compliance work we've been doing. It's around 15 billion pounds in paperwork, EU and UK alone, in food, drinks, exports and imports and exports. And that's just insane. And that's where actually a lot of the bad stuff happens, because if you have a very convoluted, conflated type of supply chain, all of the bad people come in and say, it's going to take them so long to find me, I don't mind cheating a bit, because the system is extremely inefficient. So what we're doing really is saying, by actually here, we have a more democratic way for you to access my data and share my data, or how we share our data between one another. We use distributed ledger, part of that engine, on our platform to power it. But if you think in a wider way, Johan, I believe that all of the food companies in the future are going to have platforms. And on those platforms, you're going to be allowing access to the data around your goods. And the reason you'll do that is quite simply because you make really good stuff, and you don't care about people seeing that transparency, because of actually. Hello, Johan, can you hear me? I just have.
Yes, you were just breaking up there for a while, but if you just rewind roughly 30 seconds to a minute in your head, and we'll start all over again. I see that have some. Okay.
I asked a question of a producer once. I said, you trouble to make really wine, and how important is the recipe to you? And they said, you know what, Oliver? The recipe's not too important. It's by making it and how people that we've done it in a goodly, sustainable, and environmental sustainable way. That we do use fresh goods. That we do use ways that don't.
I think the internet in your wine cellar, Oliver, has drunk too much wine. To be honest, because you just froze on the screen again here. But I think while we see if it comes back up again, I think it's really interesting, and the stuff you had taught me over the years about how we can achieve transparency by using distributed ledger technology in the world of food is of course amazing. And not the least in the sector of wine, which of course is a very good place to start, because it's a high value product, and where we have something to experiment with. Okay, there you are again, Oliver. Now we hope that the technology is more stable now. So
the good thing about technology, you can have your backup devices with you. So unfortunately, with paper, you can never have a backup piece of paper, but usually you can back up your technology a lot better.
That's absolutely true. So cool. But let's walk into the various parts of it. So first of all, distributed ledger technology, or blockchain, as we commonly associate it with, it makes things transparent. I think that's important. Verifiable. And it's hard for the rotten apples, so to say, to hide in the same way as they used to. But it's not just about that. It's not just about getting the data so that we can start innovating on proper data. it's also about making it more efficient. Can you dig in a bit into the project you've been doing with the UK post Brexit?
Right. Absolutely. So we actually started this project, and it wasn't based really on Brexit. It was based on the wider problem of reducing friction in trade. Now, what's really powerful about this project is you have the UK government in the form of HMRC, Innovation, Food Standards Agency, DEFRA. You have Wine Australia in the beginning and still involved there. Wine producers, the Wine Spirits Trade Association of the United Kingdom, obviously Chainvine as the platform solution provider here, and driven by next gen technology. But it's been going on for 3 years. It's still going on. We're now actually working with the world's largest winery and their subsidiary called Fetzer Wines. So this is our latest innovation, the Fetzer app, and that will let you into all of the good stuff you want. So a consumer can log in here, the regulator can log in, and the employee. What's great about this project and what we found was that if you begin to put a digital discipline on your supply chain, and when you talk about distributed ledger, I'd say one thing to the audience and yourself, Johan. It begins with identity and it ends with identity. Identity, identity, identity. And when you have this distributed ledger, when you have these shared ledgers between people, the key aspect is this identity is logging on now, that they're looking at this data, they're accessing that data, or they're uploading data. Why are they doing it? Who are they doing it for? And where are they doing it? And it is kind of simple in that way that we keep it very exact, but identity is key there. And this is what the compliance regulators saw. They said, actually, the producers, this could be food, this could be wine, the producers have 90 or over 90% of all the compliance data we want. Why do they need to keep duplicating this data and paperwork and sending it thousands of miles or hundreds of thousands of miles across the globe, when actually what we need is really access to their data? So as the program's moved on, and it has been 3 years, and we've managed to get it through COVID, and COVID actually showed us more benefits of the technology than we thought we had. But what we're seeing is that the efficiencies gained from the producer and the regulator are both beneficial. And of course, that leads into actually more benefits for the consumer themselves. There's a sort of closed loop, if you like.
Yeah, no, because it's all these, the red tape or the handling, it always, of course, incurs a cost, and that is being pushed towards the consumer or to the consumer in the end. So it's actually kind of inflation driving when you add more paperwork to trade. So, and I think it's important. So I sit here right smack in the middle of, one of the greatest trading places on earth, which is Dubai, a country thriving on trade. And what type of efficiencies could we potentially look at when we look at this type of technology, whether it's for wine or for something else?
So I can give you some figures on declaration data that we've seen from the UK and independent research. On the declaration data itself, we saw the possibility to reduce the cost by up to 60% on declaration.
Sorry, how much? 60%?
60,
on the
yes.
declaration. Okay.
Now, if you think the average rate around £130 going into the UK for any size of good on some things, that's an immediate reduction of £60 or 65 on 130. But then if you're looking around, if you're a SME importer exporter and your costs around 50 there, and you're saying, right, we're going to chop off 25,000 of that, or 25,000 euros, it's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. It's actually, the ease of use as well of technology in this case, because it can be really easy to use. It also is something that could encourage trade even more, because right now in the we talk about the trade between the EU and the UK. Of course, everyone being married in documents and drowning in documents, of course, pushes people to say, nah, I don't bother. It's too much hassle to export or to import. So this is something that really smoothens international relations.
I mean, if you think about what we're trying to attempt and what we are slowly beginning, what is being seen is that we're creating a good guys channel, green channel, if you like. Pre-book your export data with the port that you're sending it to and regulators. So pre-book access for your goods to arrive, much as you've had to do during COVID. If anyone's been traveling during COVID, you've had to say, actually, my passenger locator form, for example. Now, why not just give that to your food or wine? That.
Exactly. So tell me, you've been traversing the globe with your solutions. Do you have any activity currently going on in the Middle East?
No, we don't have anything going on in Dubai yet, which would be nice because I know it's a lot warmer there than it is in Stockholm at the moment.
That's for sure. That's for sure. No, Oliver, it's always amazing to listen to you and hear more about the world of blockchain and wine. I'm terribly sorry, but we need to round this one off and move on in the program. Again, Ollie, thank you for sharing. Thank you for joining. But shame on you for showcasing your lovely wine cellar. You have to bring me there as a punishment as soon as we get back to Stockholm.
You're welcome. And anyone interested. Thank you, Johan. Have a good day.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good day. Bye. So that was Oliver Oram, friends, from Chain Wine, one of the greatest minds when it comes to blockchain and distributed ledger technology in this world. And we will see more of Ollie, I'm sure. We have a short break now before the last section of the day with Moa Gubuser from Oddbird. And that's going to be a fun one. See you soon. Sorry? Du kan se här. Folks, very welcome back to the stage here at the Sweden Food Tech Summit, or Micro Summit, perhaps you should call it, straight to you from the Swedish Pavilion at Expo 2020 in Dubai. I'm sitting here at the main stage. My name is Johan Jorgensen, and to my help, I have not the least my magnificent screen, 5 times 10 meters or something, beautifully curved, showcasing everyone in a beautiful way that I'm talking to here. And we're bringing to you, as you know, the magic entrepreneurs of the future food system, the people who are building the solutions that will enable us to live a healthy and sustainable life on planet Earth through food. And here with me today, I have, let's put her up on the screen. Yes, here we have Moa Gurbiser, yes, from Oddbird. And Moa, I think you are the best representative we have or can possibly think of in Sweden, at least here in Dubai, for what you are doing. Please tell us a bit more of who you are.
Oh, thank you. I would say hello from Gothenburg. It looks lovely where you are sitting now.
It is absolutely lovely here in Dubai. It's now, of course, the sun has come down, but it's lovely, nice and warm, friendly people, amazing food, and basically no wine to be seen. And that's because it contains alcohol. Not a good thing.
Sure.
But I missed it. I missed the taste though. I missed the taste.
Oh, sorry for not being able to send you the samples. But I will start to present myself. My name is Moa Gurbiser, and I'm a former social worker and family therapist. And I have been working for about 25 years before I got to think in which way we can change the society's way of thinking in this alcohol industry that is forcing us and pushing us to drink. And the whole society is in every corner is very, very much in everything is celebrating and drinking. Everything is with alcohol everywhere. So it's kind of nice to see that there are societies which has not that kind of perspective, which is in Dubai, for example. But in this part of the world, in the European countries, especially where I am in the Scandinavian part of the society, is the drinking culture is very much in every corner in our society, and it has some kind of measurements that you have to explain yourself of why you should not be, why you are not able to drink alcohol. And when I have seen the detrimental effects of the effect on the society, and all the children that I have been meeting in the family therapies that I have been working with the families that are seeking for a kind of way to stop drinking. But many of those families was also failed in the therapy form, because they were so much pushing to drink, so it was very impossible for them to just stop drinking. And this way of thinking that we are pushing people to drink and we ask people to explain themselves why they don't want to drink, made me a kind of way of thinking that why, if we could shift the change or the way of how we are thinking towards a society, of a kind of a new society, where we could ask the question, would you like your wine with or without alcohol, as common would you like your coffee with or without milk? And by that shift, by the way of thinking in that way, we could also see the effects of what alcohol can do, reduce this kind of harmful effects that it gives. And so a kind of society, but in the other way, it is very difficult to just change the way of how a society are thinking. So it was not the easiest way to say, could you help us? Could you help me? Could we have a common discussion of what kind of society we wanted to be in, or what kind of society can we create together? So in that perspective, we need to also to create wines without alcohol, with zero. And the quality has to be so good so people can also ask the question, because the perception of non-alcoholic wines was so bad. So we couldn't get people to ask the question if it's not good wines.
No, but that's absolutely true. And I think it's key what you're bringing up here. Non-alcoholic wines tasted before people such as yourself came along. It tasted really, really bad. That wasn't an option at all. You know, you can use it for washing windows or something, but not drinking it. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that kind of perception, of course, was a big challenge for us, because we do want to make, if we are going to make that shift, it has to be a better wine than with alcohol. That was our goal. So in the first place, we need to see what kind of wines we can de-alcoholize, remove the alcohol, what kind of vineyards we could work with, and what kind of techniques we can use in order to make this high quality of wines that we're serving for the Scandinavian market and for the European market. So that was the challenges from us.
Yes.
But I'm not from the wine industry, so just became to be a winemaker after 25 years in the social area. Gave me a lot of thinking of the behavioral of changing the people's mindset is a very difficult way. So I would say we should have two financial statements. One of when you can do that kind of business, but also the statements of how can we change the mindset, because we do want to change the life for so many people that has so much trouble with it. We do, for example, have 1 million of people who can be alcoholic within the period of between 3 and 5 years, and 350,000 children are affected by this way of drinking.
It is absolutely silly. I think, let me just make a reflection, because I've been walking around here in Dubai in the evenings, and it's like they're calm. A lot of people are out in the streets, all ages, men, women. I don't see trouble or fighting or quarrels or these, you know, super drunk men running around making noises like strange animals. And it just feels very comfortable in an environment without alcohol. That's for sure. That's a total win. But then I sit down in the restaurants, and I must confess it's kind of boring to eat wonderful dishes and drink wine or orange juice with it. So I think what you're on to something yet, I think is absolutely central. And you're coming to it, of course, from the perspective of helping the children and removing the urge to drink. And can you tell us a bit more about the technology? Because you're not brewing special types of wines. You're actually removing the alcohol from wine without destroying the taste. So how do you do this? This is almost like voodoo to me, or black magic.
Yeah. Well, we do have our secrets. I just wanted to say that I do understand the feeling of not having a wine to a good dinner at the restaurants, and but it doesn't necessarily to be the juice or the Coke or the other kind of sugar bombs, as I call it. but you could actually have, I mean, the noises that you are speaking, the drunken people, and the confidence that you feel when you are in Dubai with none of that kind of problems. It is quite nice to have that kind of
Absolutely.
feeling, really. And but you don't necessarily need to have the alcohol. But what you need also is to have the good tasting of the wine, which is very, very a complement to a very, very nice nice dinner. So in that way, I would say that it's a kind of good society to be in. But what I will say is that it hasn't be black and white in that case as well. You have to have the choice, but not that you need to be pushed to drink, not that you need to push to be an alcoholic in that way. That it is a glass of low alc could be very, very good. That is 0.2, or if it is less than 0.5. But what I would say that this kind of technique where we remove the alcohol is a kind of distillery, which is called the off, where you, I mean, the distillation. But you can also put the alcohol in a room's temperature, and the alcohol can remove by itself many degrees. But what we do is to separate the alcohol from the wine in a distillery, where you, put with the heat, not the boiling, with the heat, with a very low of heat, and separate them from each other, and put the flour with the wine again. It is a kind of technique, and you have to choose your wine very, very good, because the wine has to be very, very good in the beginning in order to not lose those kind of flavors. And for the first time, we have made this non-alcoholic red and white with nature wines, which is very special, because it's all the nature wines is hand-picked. It is very, no waste in it is in circularity in that nature wines. And for the first time, we made this kind of dealcoholization process in the nature wines, and it was really good, very, very good, and the wine did even get better than before. So that kind of wines, for you to choose when you don't want to drink the alcohol is very good. And we wanted to take the advantage of making that kind of dishes and take the place of serving something else.
I think this is interesting, because it doesn't only, we don't only talk here about, of course, wine as something you drink with the meat. Actually, you talk also about wine that you use in a meal in order to cook them. And when I look at many of the dishes here that I eat, I would say, yeah, if we would have boiled this in a little wine, perhaps that wouldn't have hurt. But of course, no one would ever use wine to that extent, at least not here in the Middle East where I am right now. So I mean, like, you're opening up an entirely new market in the world for this. So where do you think this will end?
Well, there is no end.
There is no end, right?
There is no end. And I think as a Sweden brand, and with the Swedish technology and this kind of working in a research way, we will serve people the best wines and the healthy wines all over the world one day. Now we are in the Scandinavian, we're the largest, and we will soon be in whole Europe. We have launched in UK with a very, very positive feedback to us. It was presented as the best non-alcoholic ever. It has been tasted in many newspapers, in many magazines and televisions. So we are very, very pleased for that, and we wanted to as I said, we wanted to change the life for 1 million people that is, we think is, should not be drink.
I think that's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful final statement, because now our time is up. But I would like to encourage everyone who listens to this to try and lay your hands on a couple of Oddbird's bottles and try it for yourself. But I can really verify your remarks here. It tastes wonderful, and you don't miss a thing with it. You don't even.
You don't feel that you need the alcohol. That is the way we're going.
And I think you really succeeded, Moa. I'm so proud to be able to feature you here in the Swedish Pavilion. I wish you the best of luck with your endeavor and hope to see you soon everywhere. Okay.
Thank you so much. Have a great day in Dubai.
Yes, we will. And same to you.
Thank you for inviting me. Bye-bye.
So, folks, that was Moa Gudbyse from Oddbird, one of the greatest entrepreneurs we have in the next-gen food system coming out of Sweden. And who would think ever that someone coming from Sweden would try to change the world of alcohol into an alcohol-free world? But Moa does that, and she does that with honors. Again, take a look at that company and join us again tomorrow when we're going to showcase even more of these magic entrepreneurs and solutions for the next-gen food system. Over and out from Dubai and the Swedish Pavilion for today.
Thank you so much.